So good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me here this morning. Okay, all right, you're the official clicker. So I appreciate being able to visit with you all this morning. I have been in business more than 5 years, but this particular business I haven't. I come to you today from Columbia, South Carolina, so I drove early this morning. Originally from Washington, D.C., and have been a serial entrepreneur across the country, primarily in the land development, software development, and professional services space. I made a radical decision a couple of years ago to basically change away from a professional services business as a licensed engineer and land surveyor doing development work to basically focus on the problems that I saw in the industry to create a software development company. And so we're excited to talk to you about land intelligence. We're calling it the rating agency for land. So think of it as just as Moody's and Bloomberg is to stock, we want to be the same thing for real estate. So next slide. So it all started with a burning desire after getting issued a patent in the real estate, utility patent in the real estate development process. It's a highly fractured industry relevant to information flow and deal flow. Very difficult to get financing, very difficult to find the next deal. But I worked on that for several years, and a couple years ago, I got basically a patent that dealt with taking lots of data, being able to overlay it on the same coordinate system, and then be able to sort through all that data to have actionable results of where to go buy property. So next slide. So I put together a team around the business plan, and you know, it's so funny because every pitch deck that you go through, everybody will say the most important thing in your business is your team, but then people will, that'll be the last slide, right? And it's after the financials, and it's right before the Q&A and all that. So I normally slide mine in early like this. I cannot stress enough how important it has been for us to be able to select and pick the right folks. There's a great, you can go out and Google it. I think it's, if you Google like the top 4 requirements of a CEO entrepreneur, it's really kind of, it boils down to 4 things. And the number 1 thing is absolutely picking other folks. And I absolutely, with this business, after we had the tech put together and we were going to spin it out as another business, I basically said, you know, we've really got to hunker down. So it took me about 6 months to put the right team together. And we still, one of the biggest entrepreneurial dilemmas is, you know, are you hiring who's in front of you, or are you picking the right person? And so I normally slow down on this to say, slowing down to get this right normally causes a massive acceleration afterwards, and that's kind of what's happened in the last 3 months. So next slide. So the pain that we're working on is that map like that, that's kind of, you know, the pastels, pretty pastels. Every year in this country, there's about 1 million acres of property that gets turned from something old to something new. And most of that is greenfield development. Obviously, there's a lot of redevelopment buildings, you know, buildings like in areas like this where there's older buildings or reuse, adaptive reuse, architecture in that. On average, though, that's about 3.5 acres per site. So relatively small sites overall. And that translates into about 285,000 deals, just under 300,000 commercial deals. These aren't residential transactions. Something where there's going to be more than 5 dwelling units, or there's going to be a commercial, industrial, office space. What happens inside of that, though, is from those 285,000 deals, there's about 20 million searches that take place every year. So when you actually build up the funnel from we made a decision to do a deal all the way through to how many deals did I look at to get to that point, there's about 20 million of those active searches that go on every year in the country. That's the market we're addressing. So, and if you look at the map, basically what we're interested in is predicting where growth is going to go in the top markets. If you take the Southeast, we're very fortunate to be in the Carolinas, because pretty much from Virginia to Florida and over to Texas is going to be more than half the population growth in the country in the next decade. So we can focus pretty clearly on some finite markets and really go deep into those markets. There's 3,200 communities, counties in this country. We only need to get to about 100 of them really well in order to have a really significant business. So next up. So what we do is, this is a GIS image of Richland counties, Lexington County, South Carolina. Columbia is right there in the kind of upper right. And what we call these are pretty pastel zoning maps, right? And you go on a GIS map on the county website, you kind of click, and you may not be able to see it from there, but can I put residential lots? Can I put low density or high density? You know, what can I put there? It all starts with some sort of map like that. And it's very laborious to then go, it's basically a 3-step process. I go from the map to my list of what I'm allowed to put there, to then another table that tells you how much of that you can put there if you're allowed to do it. So it's basically called the table of permissible uses, and then the density calculations. That 3-step process is the utility patent that we got to be able to take that in any jurisdiction, digitize it, map it, and then be able to go after it. For those of you that follow software patents, there was a ruling a couple years ago by Supreme Court. You know, you can't patent the E equals MC squared, right? You can't patent laws of nature. This is not a law of nature. This is interpretive science on ingested data. So it's very different from that standpoint. But what we do is we take that, and then hit the next slide, please. We turn it into that. So think of it as the CNBC stock ticker board of what to buy, sell, and hold. And so by having actionable data of which properties you should actually look at from a financial perspective that are going to have long-term value and appreciation, we can actually then target, based on the proposed use and the demographics of an area, which properties you should cruise for when you're trying to pick where to go buy something. We like to call it creating the futures market of land. If you think about the Chicago Board of Trade, being able to buy and sell corn and soybeans, we think people should be able to buy and sell futures on real estate values, and that obviously gives us an ability to crowdsource data at that point relevant to where people think the trends are. And the whole business of real estate development is getting 5 to 10 years ahead of the population and migration trends. Next up, just ask Detroit, right? And so basically, by taking our patent and our multiple layers, we basically were able to take an old feasibility study. You know, our engineering firm would sell a feasibility study to somebody. It could vary in price, but I used to call it $5,000 in 2 weeks. And we took business processes and digitization and took that down to under 2 days and under $1,000, right? Same exact report. What we have the ability to do now, though, is with the cloud and with software advances in the last 10 years, we can take big data ingestion, so kind of a lot of the maps and data that people produce and we're able to ingest. Some of it's free, some of it's paid for, depending on what warehouses you get. But then what we have the ability to do because of our expertise in land development and valuations and pricing and cost models, is we have the ability to add our analytic data layers to that. So we could take an area and basically cruise it for property. In other words, as if we were going to buy it ourselves, but we're not going to develop it ourselves. Well, now we've written, like an author, we've written a book on a property, and now we can market that to the world on the internet. We can sell that book over and over again to multiple people who are looking in that market. So we fractionalize an overhead cost that those searchers in that 20 million search are paying one at a time. And now what they would be able to do is come on our platform and download it, kind of like what we do with music now. And then being able to crowdsource data. So being able to collect data, so I'm a licensed surveyor as well, so I know about data ingestion from the field. And so being able to have mobile apps and tools that the users in the community, whether it's a real estate agent, an architect, an engineer, a contractor, there might be people that have good ideas, there should be something that goes here. We have a whole domain suite around how to crowdsource data. One of the biggest things that happens with local towns and communities is they have public inquiries and public meetings. Those can be, those are normally not the cheerleading sessions when new projects are approved or proposed. And so being able to have a different way to have citizen engagement and citizen feedback to actually give the companies an indication of what they should go put somewhere. One of my favorite examples of that is if any of you catch the show Bar Rescue, they always, John Tafferty always rolls out a map with the bar that has got the wrong demographic, and he rolls out the map and he says, you know, based on your demographic, this is the type of bar or restaurant you should run, right? And so we really kind of call that a reverse demographic search. And so by having the data in there of what's in the community and what the people want, we can actually sell that data back to organizations and companies that want to be in that area where there's basically a void for their services or market. Next up. And so, so basically we have a SaaS platform that we're working on, which is basically our Landcast is where we work on basically scoring each of the properties and rating them. And then we have a suite of products that basically go through the process to build on those. Next up. That community, working on the search, the data analytics, and the community. Today what we're working on is basically fast, downloadable, digestible digital reports. And as we build that out, we'll be able to have a rating agency for land where people will actually be able to get buy, sell, hold ratings on their property. Next up. So what can 1 million cups do for us? Number one, we are doing user focus groups. We've done our customer discovery. We've got our roadmap. We've got products. We have the ability to perform. What we're looking for right now are specifically land developers, real estate equity investors, and debt lenders, community banks, and people in the banking industry that basically can sit in and talk about the pain points so that we can take all the list of all the features we've developed and put them in the right timeline. So that literally we had a focus group with 5 people in Dallas yesterday, and basically we went through our entire brainstorm list yesterday, and now we're checking that against the market in different markets. Our first 3 markets we're working on are Northern Virginia, the Carolinas, and Dallas. A little bit different. The colonial states obviously work a little bit different influences, different socioeconomic demographics in those areas. So we're basically testing those 3 markets first, and they're projected to continue to be growth markets. So that's it. And then anybody who wants to participate in our pre-launch, to give us feedback, to tell us what doesn't work, what features should be there, that's available on our website right now. So that's our main work. See?